Priceless reactions to the big Tish indictment. Let's check it out. And welcome to Rob Schmitt Tonight. Happy Friday to you. A panic media looking to save their hero, the New York Attorney General Tish James, as she faces this federal indictment for mortgage fraud. The woman who proudly bragged about weaponizing the legal system against Donald Trump is now finding that's happening to her. Listen to CNN's take on this last night.
What Tish James, and again, we're still getting the details, but if it's related to this mortgage issue, I mean, this is something that everyone in America, or many people at least, if you're lucky enough to be able to buy a house in America, you deal with this, right? The federal government doesn't go after all of these people for doing this.
How sweet is that, right? This is something that everybody does. The government doesn't usually go after this. Does that ring a bell to anybody? Kind of like going after a developer for using favorable asset valuations when applying for loans, maybe? Maybe kind of exactly like that, maybe? It's revenge so sweet it'll give you a tummy ache. And although Trump and his allies are denying that this is targeted, of course it is, and it needs to be. This needed to happen. Tish James needed to get rocked for the wholly un-American hit job she attempted, trying to bankrupt the opposition's candidate for president like we live in Venezuela or some other hellhole, as the rest of her despotic allies tried to put him in prison. Yes, these people are awful. They went down a very un-American, very dark road, and they did it without even hesitation because it was Donald Trump. This was
He's en route to Fulton County, Georgia.
Remember the coverage of our former president going to court. Take a listen to this.
He's en route to Fulton County, Georgia, via Newark Airport, we believe. He will surrender himself for processing at an overcrowded jail with a reputation for violence and neglect. A jail that is accustomed to holding defendants facing charges up to and including violent crimes, where stabbings are frequent. Actually, 3 people have lost their lives over the last month. That jail is where the disgraced ex-president of these United States is heading right now.
MSNBC's dud host at 4 o'clock. She hasn't had feelings like that since her honeymoon. Put that moment up against her coverage today.
There are no Don McGahns in Trump 2.0 to squash Trump's insatiable appetite for revenge. Instead, we have Trump telling his attorney general in a public post to charge his perceived enemies. In the weeks since, we have seen 2 of those publicly stated enemies, Jim Comey and New York Attorney General Letitia James, indicted. Now, today, news of criminal charges expected against Trump's former national security advisor turned critic, John Bolton. When you go down the list, who could be next? It could very likely be the people who sought to hold Trump accountable for the January 6th insurrection on the U.S. Capitol.
Why are you so sad today, sweetheart? I mean, when it was the other way and it was the former president and the leading candidate to be the next president, you were he's going to go to jail with all really dangerous people, a place where people get killed. He's going to have to go there. Why is she sad now? Big Tish's indictment for a second home in Virginia she claimed was her primary residence while she was New York's attorney general. Again, this is cut and dry stuff, right? The chief law enforcement officer in the state of New York, you have to think she knows better, and you have to think she knows she's not going to be living primarily in Virginia when she's doing that job in New York, hundreds of miles away. And tonight, the same people who pushed to make the outlandish legal assault against Trump over the last couple years seem credible, find this charge against Tish James to be just outrageous.
This is what tyranny looks like. Donald Trump has turned the Justice Department into his personal attack dog to go after his political enemies. This is tyranny. This is outrageous. Every American should be horrified, absolutely horrified, about what has happened.
Nobody's horrified, Chuck, because we can remember what you think that we can't remember. We can totally remember. Even those of us that think that this is targeted justice, which it is, understand that it's necessary, and they understand that you and your ilk started this fight. Again, Your side broke the system. You decided to go down this dark, very un-American road, and so you will now pay the price. This is what you get. Connecticut's Chris Murphy calling it bone-chilling. This is how democracies die fast. Chris Murphy, ooh, he's terrified. He laughed all the way to the bank when this happened to Trump, and it was far worse when it happened to Trump, too. I mean, with Trump, it was potentially the rest of his life behind bars and total bankruptcy. The media sounds much the same. Endless propaganda with claims that Trump has now weaponized the justice system. The justice system was fine up until now. Now it's weaponized. Yet when Trump was hit with 91 felonies as he ran for president, 91 felonies, had never had any legal trouble before, at 78 years old, 91 felonies. Here's how NBC covered it.
NBC News has exclusively learned that the newly elected incoming New York Attorney General plans to launch some sweeping investigations into President Trump, into his family. Letitia James tells NBC News, quote, "We will use every area of the law to investigate President Trump and his business transactions and that of his family as well."
That's it? That's the coverage of something that was so clearly political and weaponized? Where's all the nuance about it being political like they sound right now? He was running for president and being investigated and indicted solely by people from the other side of the political aisle. And the coverage is just, let's play it straight. Over at MSNBC, deep state mouthpiece Ken Delanian arguing it's no big deal. Tish only benefited like $19,000.
Essentially, they were alleging that she bought a home and she said it was going to be a second home and instead used it as a rental property. And so the difference in interest rate there was she would have qualified for a 3.8% interest rate, according to the indictment, and she got a 3% interest rate. And so what they're saying the crime here was, the ill-gotten gains, was just under $19,000. Do they have evidence that she knowingly misrepresented to the banks, or was it just a paperwork error?
I mean, it's 3 to 3.8. Anybody that knows mortgages, that's a sizable amount of money over time. I mean, the reason it's only $19,000 is because she bought a crappy house. She bought like a $100,000 house. If it was $1 million, it'd be a lot more. When they accused Trump of this same basic crime, they likened it to thievery, right? When he did it on a much larger scale, when he said, oh, well, I'm borrowing against it. Let's make this asset, let's get a valuation as high as we can for this asset. I'm going to borrow against it. They called that thievery. And we all just laughed because it was so ridiculous. And then they tried to imprison him for it. Well, we're going to do the same. How much time, if it's thievery, how much time would one get if they robbed a bank for $19,000? That'd be a pretty good getaway for some little punk robbing a bank. How much time would that get? Because this is stealing. And remember, nobody is above the law. How many times has Big Tish told us that? Over at CNN, and to Anderson Cooper's credit, and on this show we give credit where credit is due, he was one of the few in the media out there over the last 24 hours reminding viewers that Big Tish did this first.
Letitia James was asked by a community activist if she was going to sue President Trump, and she replied, quote, "Oh, we're going to definitely sue him. We're going to be a real pain in the ass. He's going to know my name personally." I mean, that's not a great look for somebody who has just been elected or just been campaigning, who hasn't even looked, I guess, deeply at any evidence.
Okay, so remember that it's CNN and it's Anderson Cooper, right? For him to say that it's not so great, that's a pretty big acknowledgement on primetime CNN, that Tish James is getting exactly what she deserves, right? He had to hedge the hell out of it so he doesn't lose his audience. But that's his way of saying, yeah, this is what she just did, except she did it way worse, and they're complaining now. Here was the Attorney General just a year ago.
White-collar financial fraud is not a victimless crime. When the powerful break the law and take more than their fair share, there are fewer resources available for working people, small businesses, and families. And everyday Americans cannot lie to a bank about how much money they have in order to get a mortgage to buy a home, or a loan to keep their business afloat, or to send their child to college. And if they did, our government would throw the book at them.
Everyday Americans can't lie to a bank. Hold on while I waddle over to the bank and lie to the bank. I couldn't agree more with Tish on that one, and a tweet to go with it: when powerful people cheat to get better loans, it comes at the expense of hard-working people. Tish James. How sweet it is. Again, it's like candy. When Bernie Kerik was sentenced to prison for fraud, he was hit with a charge for false statements while applying for a home loan. The New York Times wrote at the time, the judge departed from the sentencing recommendations, giving Mr. Kerik a longer sentence because he said he had betrayed the public's trust. I think it's fair to say that with great power comes great responsibility and great consequences, Judge Robinson said. With great power comes great responsibility. Letitia James is the Chief Law Enforcement Officer for the state of New York. Mike Davis is the founder and president of the Article 3 Project, joins us now. Mike, good to see you. I want to play one more good one for you just to get you riled up. Tish James in 2020.
Each and every day, I wake up with a fire in my belly. I walk into my office, I sue the president, and I go the hell home. That's what I do.
Can you believe we lived in a country where you were allowed to say that and run for office?
It's amazing that Big Tish, who campaigned on the fact that she's going to get President Trump, and she actually tried to bankrupt President Trump for the non-fraud of paying back sophisticated Wall Street banks on time as agreed in full with interest, is now caught red-handed with federal bank fraud and false statements to a financial institution. I want to say to Trump U.S. Attorney Lindsay Halligan, hats off to you for bringing this indictment, because there are a lot of people who are saying the evidence was not there. And after we read this indictment, it is very clear that Big Tish committed mortgage fraud when she lied about whether she lied about living in this Virginia home. She has to live in a New York home under New York statute because she's the attorney general. So Big Tish, you better lawyer up, because it looks like you're going to the big house.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a pretty obvious scheme, right? I mean, I ask anybody if they'd like to knock 0.8% off of their mortgage, and the wheels start running in their head of how much freaking money that is over the course of 15 or 30 years. A lot of cash. Just because she bought a dumpy little house doesn't mean that it's still not a crime. And I want to play this for you because it's good. Take a listen to CNN in 2023 when Trump was indicted compared to CNN after this indictment of Tish James.
Trump did acknowledge that there could have been a mistake on his financial statement when it came to the value of his Trump Tower apartment.
The judge said, listen, you just can't offer miscalculating or wrong and misleading and fraudulent information and then say, wait, just kidding, do your own due diligence here.
If it is a mistake and the person says, look, it's obviously a mistake, here's evidence it's a mistake, then you can't prove intent, and that's important.
That's what they're trying to get at. Letitia James seems like there was an error on a power of attorney form. They would try to argue that that was no intent of wrongdoing if she was presenting throughout and the bank itself did not feel it was defrauded.
Suddenly, it might just be a mistake, and there shouldn't be, and there's no problems there, right, Mike?
I've been on your show how many times since the Mar-a-Lago raid?
Yeah.
Over 3 years ago. It's like Christmas every day in the Trump administration. I would say this to Big Tish. I think the Trump Justice Department may actually make Virginia your primary residence when they put you in federal prison in Virginia.
I got 30 seconds left. Bolton looks like they're saying early next week. National Security Advisor, Trump's former National Security Advisor, could be charged next week for the classified documents in his home. This seems like a pretty solid case on this one, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's espionage, and I remember Bolton out there talking about espionage when they were going after President Trump for having presidential records he's allowed to have under the Presidential Records Act. Lawyer up, Bolton. Justice is coming, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, they got with Bolton. Biden was never the president when he took all of his documents, and Trump's the one that gets his house raided and gets charged with it. I mean, it's just unbelievable. Mike Davis, good to see you. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
We've got Benny Johnson joining us now to talk about this. Benny, good to see you. I know you've had a very interesting day. We saw the news conference. We're going to get to that here in a moment. I just want to start, though, if we can, with Tish James and the reaction we have seen to it from the broader media, which has just been priceless.
Yeah, I would just view this as biblical justice. God has a sense of humor, and the trappings and weapons that are formed against the righteous man will be used on the evil man, and that is what you're seeing time and time again. James Comey is getting convicted. Well, not convicted yet, but indicted for exactly what he went after General Flynn for. I think we're just seeing the appetizer indictments here for Letitia James. Letitia James has so many other problems. There are multiple Virginia properties. There's a property in Brooklyn, and then there's the DOJ cover-up from inside that is now being investigated. And I spent some time with the DOJ today. Boy, I think that Tish James had better be planning on spending a lot of her vacation time in federal court.
Yeah. Well, I remember how much time Trump had to spend in court when he was trying to run for president, and that was the point. I want to talk about what we saw today, the news conference. You had a pretty serious scare. And, of course, this is 1 month after Charlie Kirk was assassinated in Utah. So it hits even harder. This threat was sent to your house, apparently, a letter, some pretty horrific details. And the man that sent the letter allegedly has now been arrested. What can you tell us?
Yes, so an individual threatened my family and myself in graphic detail. This is a left-wing individual who called me a white Christian cis Trump supporter, and that is why he hated me. He described how he wanted to kill me, just like Charlie Kirk was killed. And instead of just ignoring this or throwing it into the trash, I said, you know what? When somebody shows you who they are, we have to believe them. So let's turn it over to the authorities. And I just want to take a moment here to thank God for the Trump administration, for the FBI under Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, who immediately got to work on this letter, who were able to find DNA evidence on it. Within 24 hours, we're able to track down that DNA, who it belonged to. The individual was arrested and then confessed, and is in federal prison right now awaiting trial. And so I'm just so thankful to them and Pam Bondi at the DOJ for taking action. I think that it's time that we take these things seriously. The left has shown us who they are, and they are a very, very violent group of people.
Excessively violent of late, as we've seen. I'm glad that that they were able to dig those prints up and find the man, and because who knows, you don't know what's he got in his house. That's what we'll figure out next. You know, how many weapons does he have? How serious was he about that? You can't take any chances when it's your family. Benny Johnson, good to see you. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, Trump gets snubbed for the Nobel Peace Prize. That and more next with author and filmmaker Dinesh D'Souza.
Just before Charlie Kirk died, he issued a stark warning of terrifying dangers ahead. Charlie wrote this in the foreword for the new book, Pagan Threat, by Pastor Lucas Miles. Charlie said that Pagan Threat could save America, and that you must read and share this book. A #1 Amazon bestseller, Pagan Threat is available everywhere. Get Pagan Threat free with Newsmax's special offer and save $30. Go online today and read Charlie's final words.
Hello, everyone. It's President Donald J. Trump, and it's Trump time. Check out this red beauty. It's one of my new watches. Wear it proudly on your wrist, and everyone will know exactly what it's for, who it represents. It's really going to be something special. It's for your favorite president. Get your watch today at GetTrumpWatches.com. Please make a great gift. It's Trump time.
The wait is finally over. My Towels are back in stock, but not for long. Get a 6-piece My Towel set, regular $69.98, now only $39.98. Towels that actually work. What a concept. And that's not all. Check out our MyPillow bed sheets, only $29.88. Any color, any style, any size, even kings. Regular $119.98, now only $29.88. And how about our limited edition premium My Pillows, made with Giza cotton and a designer gusset, made exclusively for you to thank you for all your support. Queens $17.98, Kings only $19.98. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to get My Towels for $39.98, My Pillow bed sheets only $29.88, and our limited edition My Pillow Queens $17.98 and Kings only $19.98. Quantities won't last long, so order now.
The Nobel Peace Prize for 2025 goes to a brave and committed champion of peace, to a woman who keeps the flame of democracy burning. The Norwegian Nobel Committee has decided to award the Nobel Peace Prize for 2025 to Maria Corina Machado.
All right, so the Nobel Peace Prize Committee in Norway under a lot of scrutiny the last couple of months and certainly the last couple of days. Trump ending several major conflicts around the world. But as we know, this committee can't possibly give Donald Trump the big prize for obvious reasons. So they actually did find the perfect alternative to minimize the amount of complaints they could get from conservatives by giving the prize to Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Corina Machado, who is an anti-communist fighting against a brutal communist dictator named Nicolas Maduro that we know. Machado then dedicated the prize to the suffering people of Venezuela and also to the president. The president actually mentioned that about an hour ago at the White House.
The person who actually got the Nobel Prize called me and said, I'm accepting this in honor of you because you really deserved it. A very nice thing to do. I didn't say then give it to me though. I think she might have. She was very nice, and I've been helping her along the way. They need a lot of help in Venezuela. But I'm happy because I saved millions of lives.
So there you have it. So technically the deadline to be nominated for the Nobel Prize was back on January 31st, right? That was just a few days into Trump's second term here before he solved all these different conflicts as well. But it was interesting that when he was asked about it today, the chair of the Norwegian Nobel Committee actually didn't use that as a perfectly viable excuse. Instead, he said this.
U.S. President Donald Trump has repeatedly said he deserves the Nobel Peace Prize and he'd like to have it. He even said that it would be an insult to the United States if he doesn't get it.
In the long history of the Nobel Peace Prize, I think this committee have seen any type of campaign, media attention. We receive thousands and thousands of letters every year of people wanting to say what for them leads to peace. This committee sits in a room filled with the portraits of all laureates, and that room is filled with both courage and integrity.
Courage and integrity? How the hell did Obama get one then? Obama hadn't done anything. He had just started his presidency. They just threw him the Peace Prize like it was nothing. So you think about that. ABC, a network that recently paid Trump a $16 million settlement because of George Stephanopoulos. Well, little George had a lot of fun with this today. Take a look.
Nobel Peace Prize announced this morning President Trump had been campaigning for that based on his work in the Middle East. He didn't get it.
He did not, George. Instead, the Nobel Peace Prize has gone to Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Machado.
It's not just in the Middle East, George. It was Middle East, Africa, Asia, conflicts all over the world that he stopped. I mean, all the lives that he has saved. That's a nice moment for George Stephanopoulos. ABC also commemorating Obama receiving the Nobel Prize back in 2009, saying Obama received the prize for his extraordinary efforts to strengthen international diplomacy and cooperation between peoples. Right, that's why he got it. Filmmaker Dinesh D'Souza joins us now to talk more about this. Dinesh, I mean, I kind of get that, you know, it might have been, it has to be next year for these, but it's funny to hear them talk about how credible this organization is, and then you think about how Obama got that award, and we know why he got it.
Well, look, I'm just relieved they didn't give it to like Greta Thunberg or, you know, Michelle Obama. These people are capable of doing stuff like that. Yeah. They are unhinged. So this is actually not a bad choice. This woman is actually very brave.
She is.
And she does represent the face of Venezuelan freedom. My wife was Venezuelan, by the way, knows her. We've supported her work over there. So she is a fantastic choice. It's just that we are living at a moment where we happen to have this sort of strategic genius at the helm, Donald Trump, who is doing things that previous presidents have attempted. I mean, I'm old enough to remember the Nixon plan, the Carter plan, the Clinton plan to fix the Middle East, and none of those plans really even got off the ground. Yeah. So Trump deserves it. I get it. He doesn't even need it, though. You know, the funny thing about Trump is that he seeks external validation for things that speak for themselves. Yeah. He likes to get the audience, the ratings, the trophy in his hand. His achievements are actually so large that the Nobel Prize does nothing for him, really.
Yeah. It is, I just thought of, though, it's funny that they gave it to Obama, but if it has to be done by January 31st, that means that Obama was nominated like 10 days into his presidency, and then they gave him the award for all these supposed accomplishments. So that kind of goes in the face of that. I want to talk about Israel for a second before I let you go. Hostages set to be released Monday or Tuesday, they're saying. We just heard the president in the White House talking about this. Many in Israel are celebrating. In Gaza, in the Middle East, are celebrating. Trump had this to say about the bodies of the hostages. Apparently, they're being unearthed right now. Take a listen.
On Monday, the hostages come back. They're getting them now. I mean, they're getting them now. They're in some pretty rough places under earth. They're in some pretty rough places where only a few people know where they are, in some cases. So they're getting them, and they're also getting the bodies, approximately 28 bodies. And some of those bodies are being unearthed right now as we speak.
You just made a film in Israel. I know that's a powerful place for you, an important place. Your reaction to this deal that the president has managed to come up with, brilliant, to get all this pressure from these other Middle Eastern countries.
Yeah, I do think the deal is a fantastic one, and I think even though it's a bitter pill in some ways for Israel, they've got to release this massive procession of terrorists in exchange for getting their hostages back. But I think they were right to sign on to this deal. In my film, which is called The Dragon's Prophecy, we interview one of the hostage wives, a woman named Lishai Miran, and her husband Omri is on that list. Now, Hamas claimed to have, quote, lost him a few weeks ago. Hopefully they've found him. Hopefully he's alive. He has small children. And of course, for me, it's personally would be very moving to see that family reunited once again after 2 full years.
Yeah. This is going to be really something to see Monday and Tuesday when we see that hopefully 20 still alive come out of the dark after 2 years. Something else. Dinesh, thanks so much for coming on. We appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Virginia is about to choose a new governor. Last night's debate should be an eye-opener.
Should transgender girls who are biological males be allowed to use girls' bathrooms and play on girls' sports teams in K through 12? You have 15 seconds to clarify.
Every day across the globe, big business agendas go unseen by investors. Things that go against your core values and beliefs. It's time to know your investments. Abortion, alternative lifestyles, gender and identity confusion. If you believe in protecting marriage and life, children, innocence, guarding masculinity, restoring families, defending religious liberty, invest with your values. Before investing, carefully consider the fund's investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses of the investment company. This and other important information can be found in the fund's prospectus. To obtain a copy, visit timothyplan.com or call 800-846-7526. Read each prospectus carefully before investing. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
At Humana, we believe your health care should evolve with you, and part of that evolution means choosing the right Medicare plan for you. Humana can help. Hi, my name is Sam Davis, and I'm going to tell you about Medicare Advantage prescription drug plans that can provide more coverage than original Medicare, including prescription drug coverage, all wrapped up into one convenient plan. With original Medicare, you're covered for hospital stays and doctor office visits, but you have to meet a deductible for each, and then you're still responsible for 20% of the cost. Next, let's look at Medicare supplement plans. If a service is covered under original Medicare, then a Medicare supplement plan pays for some or all of your Medicare deductibles and the 20% co-insurance. But they may have higher monthly premiums and no prescription drug coverage. Humana Medicare Advantage prescription drug plans include medical coverage, plus prescription drug coverage, with $0 copays on hundreds of prescriptions. All plans include $0 copays for covered preventive dental services, vision coverage that includes vision exams and a yearly allowance toward eyewear, and hearing benefits that include routine hearing exams and coverage toward hearing aids. You could get $0 copays for in-network preventive services like primary care visits, mammograms, and prostate exams. And there's worldwide coverage for emergency and urgent care when you travel. Plus, Humana also offers Medicare Advantage plans. Plans have $0 or low monthly plan premiums, and there's a cap on your out-of-pocket costs. To see if Humana plans are available in your area, simply call the number on your screen or visit our website. The Medicare annual enrollment period ends on December 7th, so call now. Humana, a more human way to healthcare.
Ransomware scares me.
Cyberman to the rescue. PCmatic blocks the ransomware that hijacks your computer and your data, then demands a ransom.
Hackers are terrifying.
Hackers are always spying on your computer. PCmatic's VPN stops hacking.
My computer is slow.
PCmatic makes your computer faster. PCmatic is made in America and protects homes, businesses, and governments.
Thank you, Cyberman. Go to PCmatic.com.
Would it take him pulling the trigger? Is that what would do it? And then you would say he needs to get out of the race? Abigail, you have nothing to say?
All right, so a debate last night in Virginia hopefully woke a lot of voters up. It was the first and final governor's debate between the Democrat Abigail Spanberger and Republican Lieutenant Governor Winsome Earle-Sears. Spanberger really did most of the work last night, revealing herself to be horribly robotic and essentially incapable of independent thought. It was so bad, she kind of made Kamala look good. If Kamala was there, she would have won the debate. Spanberger's answers to basic questions on trans bathroom policy and whether she still endorses the psychopathic Attorney General candidate Jay Jones were effectively embarrassing. Bathrooms, of course, a hot topic in a state like Virginia, have been for years now. Take a listen to this.
Should transgender girls who are biological males be allowed to use girls' bathrooms and play on girls' sports teams in K through 12? You have 15 seconds to clarify.
In cases across Virginia, I think it's incumbent upon parents and educators and administrators in each local community to make decisions.
Would you rescind the Youngkin administration policy requiring boys and girls to use bathrooms aligning with their biological sex?
In each local community, decisions should be made between parents and educators and teachers in each community.
Can you imagine that running a state in this country? What are we doing? Spanberger also refused to pull her endorsement of the Democrat hopeful Attorney General Jay Jones after those leaked text messages showed him wishing like the deaths of his political opponent's children. Take a listen.
Will you continue to endorse Jay Jones as the next Attorney General of Virginia?
The comments that Jay Jones made are absolutely abhorrent.
For you yourself, do you still continue to endorse Jay Jones? 15 seconds, yes or no?
We are all running our individual races.
As of now, you still endorse Jay Jones as Attorney General?
I'm saying as of now, it's up to every voter to make their own individual decision.
Winsome Earle-Sears is the Republican in this race, and she joins us now. It's good to have you back on. What is your message to voters after the display that we saw last night?
Yeah. You have an Attorney General nominee from the Democratic Party who is saying that he wanted to kill the former Speaker of the House, the Republican. And by the way, not just him, his 2-year-old and 5-year-old children. And we have this Democratic nominee for governor, Abigail Spanberger, who says, well, she's disgusted and, she's disgusted and more disgusted. So we're talking murder and she's disgusted. This is the political calculation that she's been trying to make. You know, she knows he needs to be gone, but then she'll make some people upset. But if he stays, she makes other people upset. So she's caught between a rock and a hard place. And what do you do when you do that? You've got to take the right decision, which is always the righteous way. Yeah. You got to take your hits. She's running to be governor.
Yeah, she's in no way qualified after what I saw last night. The Washington Post trying to save her, as you would expect. They're slamming you, saying that you talked over her too much in a chaotic debate, as they describe it, that you were provocative, and Spanberger didn't take the bait. What's your response to that?
There was no bait to take. There were simple questions. If it were your daughter who came home crying that she was forced to undress in a locker room with a male, what would you say? And she had nothing to say. She stood there, stone-faced. And then what about you voted against parents knowing if the curriculum was being changed? Why did you vote that way? Nothing. You voted to keep those who are criminally, illegally here. Why did you do that? You voted to keep our borders open, and as a result, fentanyl came across the border, was killing 20 Virginians a month. Why did you do that?
Right.
I mean, just silence.
Yeah.
You want to raise our taxes. Why?
You feeling I got 10 seconds left. You feeling optimistic as we move along here?
Yes, well, our polls have always been showing that this was close, but places like the Washington Post has always been saying, you know, it's way out there, no way we can win. This is what the Washington Post does, and that, my friends, is abhorrent and disgusting.
Yeah. They like to put polls out. They kind of take away the motivation. Yeah, suppression polls, as they call them. Winsome Sears, good to have you back on. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.
Winsome Sears for governor. .com.
All right. Sounds good. Good to see you. All right, Dr. Michael Savage up next, unleashing on one of the most undesirable political candidates we have seen in ages, the frontrunner for California Governor Katie Porter. Next.
Your bathtub is a problem. It's outdated and unsafe. The solution, a stunning new shower from Jacuzzi Bath Remodel, installed in as little as 1 day. Right now, call and Jacuzzi will waive all installation costs, and you won't make a payment for up to a year. Jacuzzi offers so many modern styles with luxurious features like soft closed doors. Jacuzzi delivers style and safety. Upgrade to an easy entry shower with a custom seat and durable grab shelves. Jacuzzi has been a trusted name for over 70 years, and that means quality. It is beautiful. You deserve a bathroom that's beautiful and safe. So don't wait. Call right now.
Call or go online now to jacuzzibathremodel.com for a limited time offer. We're waiving all installation costs, plus 0 interest and 0 payments for up to 1 year.
Go to jacuzzibathremodel.com or call 800-384-3430.
Life moves fast. What if there was a fun way to stay balanced, calm, and focused in the middle of it all? Introducing the Gibbon Slackboard, the world's first slackline-based balance board. The Slackboard helps kids develop better coordination and makes it fun to get active.
Sometimes we pretend that we're surfing on it. I like to play games and have like challenges with the family. It's hard, but it's really, really fun.
The Gibbon Slackboard is the perfect tool for improving balance, building strength, and finding your center. Improving your balance can help you focus, resulting in more productivity and better results. Falls are the #1 cause of injury for older adults. Balance training is an excellent way to reduce your risk of falling.
I really feel that the Slackboard is going to help improve my quality of life and just get a better balance under me to avoid any injuries that can happen as you get older.
Everyone wants an edge when it comes to performance. Improving your balance improves almost everything you do. Training on the Gibbon Slackboard can give you the physical and mental advantages you need to achieve your goals.
I've had knee injuries and ankle injuries from playing basketball. I use the board about twice per week, maybe 5 to 10 minutes tops. It really stabilizes all the joints, ligaments, and tendons that I have surrounding those parts of my body.
The Gibbon Slackboard comes ready to use out of the box. It goes where you go, so you can use it anytime on any floor. You can start right away with simple videos on the free Gibbon app. The Slackboard is the fun and effective way to bring better balance into your life, no matter your age, fitness level, or goals. Take the first step on your balance journey by going to gibbon-usa.com. Own your balance with the Gibbon Slackboard.
With Jackpocket, you can order official state lottery tickets anytime, anywhere, and you can see your ticket on the app. Plus, with access to Powerball, Mega Millions, and more, with Jackpocket, your favorite games are right at your fingertips. Download Jackpocket today.
Welcome back. The leading candidate for California Governor, Congresswoman Katie Porter's campaign is now spiraling out of control. Porter completely losing it, cutting short a very simple interview with a local reporter. revealing herself to be quite bizarre and quite unhinged. You've seen the clips many times by now. A barrage of newly leaked videos also showing her berating staffers, one time for being in a camera shot on just a Zoom phone call, as if anybody cares, and then barking orders when the lighting is off. Take a look.
I need the lights off, the bright lights. I'm so sorry, but I am about to get on. Bernard, I need you to turn these off.
Lights off?
These that are killing me. Hang on 1 second, everybody.
No, we should put the computer up on it.
Yes, yes, we should have. Yes. Okay, everybody, I'm not that dark. Okay, everybody, I'm sorry about that. I am in a TV studio.
Not as bad as the other ones, I have to say that much. And then you have the claim that she dumped piping hot mashed potatoes on her ex-husband's head during a fight, which is my favorite of all. Dr. Michael Savage joins us now. So this is the front runner for governor out there in your crazy state, Mr. Savage?
She's a perfect follow-up act to Gavin Newsom. That's the truth. But I wrote a poem when I saw that thing yelling at her aide behind her. Can I read it? It's very short. It's a little Jonathan Swiftian. Katie was portly, but that's not all. Her vicious mouth caused her a great fall. Get out of my shot, she screamed at her maid, and then there were none to come to her aid. I thought that was very good. But then we looked into Katie, and I said, who is, actually, I never heard of her. I swear to God, I've lived here 30, 40 years. I never even knew who she was. The husband, Matthew Hoffman, alleges the potato incident, but he said this, which is clearly she's a mad woman by any analysis.
Yeah.
Rob. When she gets angry, he said she will claw and scratch her arms and then say to me, look what you made me do. Yeah. Hoffman shockingly stated in court papers, by every definition, this is beyond OCD. This is hospitalization.
Well, you know what I've always heard too is I think I had a girlfriend tell me one time that you can tell a lot by the way people treat, like, you know, waiters and people that, you know, like that have to like wait on them, that, you know, that you should be respectful to, and people that treat like waiters and people like that poorly and staffers poorly, things like that. You tell a lot about the person from that. That's exactly who she is. I mean, she's got these staffers that are just there probably trembling when she's in the room. And she just lambasts them for doing virtually nothing. It's just a bad person.
She studied under Elizabeth Warren after coming out of Yale and Harvard. Stupid she wasn't. The woman graduated Harvard Law School, right? Taught law at several universities, which is to her credit. But she studied under Elizabeth Warren and graduated magna cum laude with Juris Doctor in 2001. So dumb she wasn't. But something has gone wrong with this woman where she's so crazed. What it is she's probably out of her league with regard to responsibility and inability to deal with not only the problems of being a politician, but of managing staff. She's probably a decent academic, a left-wing nutcase at that. But nevertheless, she should have stayed at Harvard, where she would have fit right in. She could scratch her arms all she wants, make herself bleed, and she'd fit right in with the whole crowd.
Jesus. Fatal attraction kind of stuff. I got to get to this one thing before I let you go, and it's about the Palisades fire and this kid, Jonathan Rinderknecht, who had been posting, this Uber driver that they say started this fire. He had been posting a lot about climate change, eco-apocalypses, and things like that. I mean, doesn't that just track perfectly? Hey, climate change is serious. I'm going to go light a fire to make sure people know that.
Well, people know I was interviewed by Gavin Newsom. I was the second guest after Charlie Kirk on Gavin's podcast because I've known Gavin for 25 years. And on it, I challenged him on this whole climate change thing. I talked about the different things with the Arctic thing. And I said, Gavin, I sent them this article today. I emailed it to him. I haven't heard back. I said, Gavin, the guy himself is a firebug, but he was a climate activist. Gavin, of course, no answer yet. The minute I get an answer, I will share it with you, Rob. I promise you.
Post it on X. Dr. Michael Savage, thanks so much. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
See you. The communist Islamist, likely next mayor of New York, Zoran Mamdani, Zoran the moron, as some call him, buttering up to Jewish New Yorkers, seen here in Williamsburg, part of Brooklyn, with Satmar leadership and Orthodox activists donned in a velvet Hasidic yarmulke during Sukkot, which is a week-long Jewish festival. I think I said all of that the right way, too. Mamdani's performances seem to be working, as the newest poll has been released since Mayor Adams dropped out of the race. Mamdani's still getting 46%. You got Cuomo at 33, and then you got Sliwa at 15. If perhaps one of those two would drop out, we might have a race. Dick Morris is a New York City, Manhattan resident, as am I, and we are both mortified of this Islamist mayor that could be occupying the mayor's mansion here in just a matter of a couple of months. Dick, what do you make of this, all of this?
Well, when Adams withdrew, he was getting about 9 points. And every one of them went to Cuomo. None went to Mamdani, none went to Sliwa. And it reflects the fact that the vote for Mamdani is an anti-Cuomo vote. These are people that do not like Andrew Cuomo, hold the nursing home stuff against him, hold his affairs against him, and are not going to vote for him no matter what. And as long as it remains a three-way race, and I think it will, Mamdani is likely to win.
He's going to win.
Now that's Act 1. Act 2 will be when he tries to govern and can't borrow money, that they won't lend, the bond people won't lend him money. He'll then come to the state and ask it for aid. The state will find that it can't borrow money. And then they will go to federal government, and Trump will take over New York City and govern it the way he does Washington, D.C. And that's the future of this.
Do you think so? You think he'll be isolated? He won't be able to get what he needs to do. I mean, he has an agenda that would cost a fortune.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that but I do think Trump will end up essentially as the mayor of New York, just like he is Washington. But there's something going on that I want to talk about. Obviously, Trump is doing everything successfully about the Middle East, and the Gaza plan and all of that is fabulous. But it is not being reflected in his polling.
Yeah.
Only 31% of the voters say their personal financial situation has improved under Trump.
Right.
And 43% said it's gotten worse. The rest think it's about the same. And I believe that Trump has got to take a major initiative in the next few days, going beyond the Gaza stuff and basically making life better for the average person.
Yeah.
He's talking about giving a rebate of $2,000 per person.
From the tariff money.
Tariff revenue.
Yeah.
There's also a possibility that he would limit interest rates, particularly on default cards. And those kinds, and they may increase Social Security benefits.
Yeah.
Those are the kind of steps he needs to take so that he brings this economic miracle he's creating home to the voters. And it's not just look at everybody else. Yeah. It's in my life, too.
Yeah. Dick, thanks so much. We appreciate it. It's not bad advice there. And it's been almost a month since Charlie Kirk was assassinated, and Dick Morris has a new book out that counters the mainstream media narrative on Charlie's life. It's called The Real Charlie Kirk. In the book, Morris reveals Charlie's secret, very important role in the 2024 Trump campaign that made it possible for the president to win. He explains how Charlie Kirk revolutionized politics in this country as well, which he certainly did. The Real Charlie Kirk, available bookstores, Amazon, free offer from Newsmax as well, right there on the screen. All right, Pritzker thinks crime in his city is one big joke. Next in News from the Left.
There's utter mayhem and chaos on the ground. We've seen people being forced to eat hot dogs with ketchup on them.
Hey there, I'm Art Edmonds, jacuzzi bath remodel expert here to answer your questions. Why should I upgrade my bath or shower? You can't stand the outdated look, the color, the cracked tiles, or maybe you're upgrading for safety. We offer an easy entry design, grab bars, a custom seat, and adjustable shower head.
Call right now and Jacuzzi will waive installation costs with no interest and no payments for up to a year.
How long does getting a new bath or shower take? With Jacuzzi Bath Remodel, installation takes place in as little as 1 day.
Beautiful work. Flawless.
Why is Jacuzzi the best company to choose? With thousands of happy customers.
Amazing.
You can trust Jacuzzi to get the bathroom of your dreams.
It exceeded all my expectations.
Call or go online now to jacuzzibathremodel.com. For a limited time offer, we're waiving all installation costs, plus 0 interest and 0 payments for up to 1 year.
Go to jacuzzibathremodel.com or call 800-384-3240.
at Sono Bello. Just one visit, one day. One decision changes everything.
It was instant. I got an amazing flat stomach.
Physically, you can see it. That belly is gone. I feel great. Sono Bello did that for me.
With Sono Bello's advanced micro laser technology, you can permanently remove stubborn fat and sculpt the body you've always wanted, all in just one visit. That's why Sono Bello is America's #1 cosmetic surgery specialist.
It's like literally hitting an easy button.
I see a snatched waist and some curves that look really good.
I went from a 14 to a 4. It was a one-day solution for me.
There's no more frustration, just permanent results.
They gave me a whole new body, and I am loving it.
Sono Bello has over 50,000 5-star reviews and board-certified surgeons. Call now for your personalized consultation. That's over a $250 value. Free. Easy monthly payment options make your best body more affordable than ever. Call Sono Bello today.
I am Mr. H, owner of Immuno 150, possibly the most complete and best nutritional supplement in the world, bar none. Now, it has propelled me to 91 years of age, and my wife Shirley to 82. Both of us are still cutting a wide swath in life, doing everything we did many years ago. All because of Immuno 150, and it can do the very same thing for you. Try it for 90 days so you can experience the difference it can make in your life. Nothing on the market can compete with the way we blend 70 plant-derived colloidal minerals with 80 very carefully selected nutrients. You'll be surprised if you take the recommended dose of Immuno 150 for 3 months. Place your order now so that you can be with us many years from now. Thank you and God bless.
Welcome back. Time now for news from the left. Jimmy Kimmel and Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker apparently think it's hilarious that, 30 black kids were shot and 5 were killed last weekend in Chicago. Take a listen to this.
This is J.B. Pritzker reporting from war-torn Chicago. As you can see, there's utter mayhem and chaos on the ground. It's quite disturbing. The Milwaukee Brewers have come in to attack our Chicago Cubs. We've seen people being forced to eat hot dogs with ketchup on them.
What's the offer here? Again, the offer is we're going to send people in to clean up your streets so you don't have all of these kids shot every weekend. And he reacts this way, making a joke, going on Kimmel because he's trying to save his political hide because he knows that if Trump cleans up Chicago, he's done forever. What a clown. What a clown. Wonder what the victims' families think of those comments. Love to talk to one of them about his appearance on that ridiculous show. And finally, here, news from the left, Washington Post. Change it fast as Bezos pulls this thing back toward the middle. Giving some love to Trump, a new opinion piece by financial reporter Matthew Lynn titled, "Economists Were Wrong About Tariffs. They Need to Figure Out Why." Piece goes on to discuss the mainstream media market experts who thought inflation would surge, supply chains would crash, the economy would plunge into a deep recession while the stock market tanked. Then it goes on, and yet 6 months on, events have not unfolded that way. The big thinkers got this one wrong. And if economics is to maintain any credibility, they need to address why that happened. The piece even admitting the economy is growing at close to 4%. That's a big growth, by the way. Obama said that would never happen again. Inflation still under 3%. Employment still strong. And tariffs are generating so much extra revenue that, as Dick Morris just said, the idea of giving taxpayers a little rebate of a couple $1,000s is on the table because there has so much tariff revenue coming in. So that's something there from the Washington Post. All right, Kimmel plays victim over his Charlie Kirk comments. That is next.
Closed captioning brought to you by MagnaLife Leg and Back Pain Relief for pain-related symptoms of sciatica.
Your sciatic nerve pain is real. Here's what real customers have to say about MagnaLife Leg and Back Pain Relief Cream. It provided me with the only relief for my sciatica.
Available at your local retailer.
My name is Mike Hammond, founder of Cigna Relief. Much of my career has been working in construction, and I love the outdoors and horses. That active lifestyle is what has caused my body to hurt. I didn't want to let this affect my family or my life, and that's what motivated me to create a team to build the Cigna Relief Patch. Clinically shown that over 85% felt relief in just 72 hours, with almost half feeling significant relief in just 15 minutes. It's drug-free, reusable, and it comes with a money-back guarantee. Whether it's your neck, back, knee, shoulder, or just aches and pains, this patch can give you your life back. When I gave my best friend a patch with tears in his eyes, he said it was the first time in 16 years he did not hurt. Join the hundreds of thousands who found relief. I'm asking you to try the Cigna Relief patch today by going to our website. If you're thinking about buying, it means you need one. You have nothing to lose. I promise the patch works.
He's breathing. Okay, we're good.
Nearly 5,000 people die from choking each year. That's frightening. I'm Dr. Ben Carson.
And I'm Arthur Lee. Well, there are ways to help prevent choking. Accidents do happen. That's why I invented the Life Pack.
Anyone can use this device, and it can save a life in seconds.
Just place, push, and pull. It's that simple. Please order one for your home, office, car, anywhere you eat.
Go to lifehack.net or call 877-543-3822.
As Israel suffers attacks on 7 different fronts, it's her poor and elderly who are barely making it through each day.
The tears are from the pain of the life that she's lived. She's a survivor of Auschwitz. The years that they would just beat her, years that she didn't have food and felt hungry.
She paid a horrible price to come home from Ethiopia. She lost in that journey her 6-year-old son. A couple of weeks later, she lost her family. She is a wonderful woman, and she is very poor.
I pray that we answer these cries, and our answer is love.
With a gift of only $25, you'll deliver a life-saving food box into the hands of an elderly Jew in need.
She's saying people have a heart. There are good people today.
Call, scan, or go online now, and the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews will rush your food box today.
Hallelujah. This is a holy moment. What you're doing is not simply being kind. You are prophetically stepping into the scriptures and being part of their redemption and our own.
When you call right now, your gift will be doubled to help save lives. Call now.
In a world where Israel is under attack, Christians can help fulfill biblical prophecies through practical support and genuine friendship.
For everything you are doing, thank you. It's perfect.
This is what a simple food box does.
You can bring joy, hope, and love to someone praying for your help today. So please, call, scan, or go online now.
Finally tonight, Jimmy Kimmel claiming his comments on Charlie Kirk's assassination were viciously mischaracterized by MAGA. Take a listen.
I didn't think there was a big problem. I just saw it as distortion on the part of some of the right-wing media networks.
As you felt like your initial comments had been mischaracterized?
I didn't feel like it was.
They were.
It was intentionally and I think maliciously mischaracterized.
Maliciously. Boy, what a goon he is. His exact words: the MAGA gang trying to characterize this kid who killed Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them. There's nothing else to it. There's no context or anything else. He's just a liar, and he's a really bad guy. That's the story at the end of the day. Bob Brooks filling in for Finnerty tonight. Bob, good to see you.
What's going on, Rob? Good to see you. Jimmy Kimmel, I think he's just mad he got caught. Almost lost his show.
Yeah.
Talk about malicious. That guy has been malicious for years.
He's a bad dude. He plays a nice guy. He's a bad dude.
Bad guy. Yeah. And, I don't know. I guess he's back on TV for now.
Yeah, he's got a show back. Good to see you, Bob.
All right, Rob. Appreciate it. Have a good weekend, man.
You too.